Welcome everyone. This is Rhonda with the Fine Fit Catering. I'm going to be doing a barbecue class for you tonight. Thanks to those of you who jumped online, and I think that there might be a couple others jumping in a little bit later. Just to let you know before we begin, we are going to be recording this session so you can listen to it later on if you wanted to do your barbecuing later, or you can barbecue with me right now in real time. So thanks, Willow, for getting this set up with Autism Ontario, and I'm excited to do another class. We have done a few in the spring, and so maybe a couple of you have been on that class as well. So I'm excited to get started. So tonight, we are going to be working with barbecuing. Everything here, you can notice it's all set up outside. We have a nice big grill here, but before we light her up, I want to do a couple safety checks. First thing, oh, that's right. So my husband is my tech guru, and he is going to be checking on a couple things throughout the evening. If you have any questions, he will be able to answer those, or at least pass that on to me, and I can answer that as well. If you can possibly turn on your video, even if for a short portion of our time together, I would love to see what you are cooking up at the same time. So, oh, good. I've got somebody online. That's wonderful. So yeah, turn on your video if you'd like, and ask any questions along the way if you would like as well. Okay, let's get started. Here's my barbecue here. I pulled out the propane tank so you could see it a little bit better. I have not lit this up, opened this up just yet because I want to check for leaks. So take a look here. This is the closed side. It's nice and tight. I'm going to turn it to open, but first I'm going to take some soapy water, put a little soapy water around it, and then I'm going to turn it on. If you see any bubbles around here, which I don't, it means there could be a leak, and you don't want to be using it with any leak. Okay, so mine is not leaking. I'll set this back up inside the barbecue. Steve will set this back up inside the barbecue, and I'll talk about a couple other things just to make sure of. Make sure your barbecue is on a flat surface, that it is clean, that it doesn't have, a ton of grease from the last time you barbecued, because of course, grease can start a fire really quickly. Make sure that you're not close to anything flammable. And then especially your clothing. Wearing long sleeves or drapey sleeves or things that blow in the wind isn't very safe around a barbecue because there's lots of open flame. And one other thing, just don't leave the barbecue unattended for any chunk of time. Like if you have to run in and grab, something like a piece of equipment or some food, that's totally fine. But if you leave it on open or on for too long, it can catch something on fire around it. So let's get this lit up. Now, some of you might have to use a barbecue lighter to get it going. I'm going to light up this side here. And I'll turn this on as well. Usually, oh, that's good. Usually there's a little button you can press, and that's the spark that gets it going. There we go. All right, so everything is lit. If you need to grab a barbecue brush, give it a little scrape. Make sure there's nothing on there from before. This looks pretty clean, so that's all right. So I'm going to let that be. And what we want to do is heat up this barbecue to 450 degrees. We want it really hot. We're going to start off our evening with flatbread. So it's kind of an Italian appetizer, really easy to make, fun for the kids to try. So let's close this up. Take a look at this. We want this to get all the way up to 450. So we've got a little bit of time. So let's get some things going first. You'll notice I have little container of water with bamboo skewers. This is for our vegetable kebabs. If you have metal skewers, you can use those as well. I prefer bamboo because metal skewers, of course, conduct heat. So you're trying to hold it and eat your vegetables, and it can be really hot. So I prefer bamboo, but they do need to be soaked so that they don't light on fire on your grill. So get those soaking. And let's start some of our prep. We are going to be using lots of garlic tonight. We're starting with an Italian dish, and then we're carrying on with a Lebanese Syrian dish. And both of those cultures utilize a lot of garlic in their cooking, which I love, so it's great. So take your garlic clove, crack it open. We're going to crush some garlic for our shawarma, and then later on we're going to use it for a sauce as well. So I'm going to give you a couple tips on chopping up garlic. Notice I'm pulling it away so it's not one full clove. If you've ever tried to cut a clove of garlic, it can be really dangerous because it's pretty tough. So what I like to do is break it up a little bit, and then you want to cut this root system off. Cut the root off, turn them, and then cut the tips off as well. We're going to use an entire head of garlic. I'm going to show you the whole thing at the same time because garlic is fantastic. Cutting tips off, and then I'm cutting the root system off. And then this is going to become my compost bowl. So I'll throw all of the scraps in here. Now, once you cut the ends off, it's much easier to get these skins off. Garlic can be really annoying and difficult to peel. A lot of people kind of give up on full heads of garlic and then they just go buy crushed garlic or chopped garlic, which I don't like as much because the flavor is not as intense. So you'll see I'm taking the side of my knife, pressing it down. This is taking this peels and separating them from the garlic itself. And it makes a satisfying crunching sound for those of you who enjoy that. Now I'm going to take those, notice how much easier it is to just pull those skins right off the garlic. And then there might be a couple of more difficult ones, but all in all, not bad. Now, both recipes tonight for our marinade and for our sauce call for very finely chopped garlic. Here's a little trick I've learned in order to get the garlic to actually crush a little bit better. I'm going to put a bit of salt directly on the garlic. And what the salt does is it wants to take all that moisture and suck it out of the garlic. And in the process of doing that, it's helping me chop my garlic nicely. So instead of just chopping it into chunks, it's going to actually crush this garlic. So for you kids involved right now, notice that this is a fairly safe technique. My left hand, which usually is over here while I'm chopping, is actually sitting on top. So you can practice your chopping skills by chopping garlic without having to worry about your left hand at all. So you'll notice I'm going back and forth. Think about it like a bit of a rocking horse. You're rocking back and forth, going over your garlic. Then you can go backwards. And then what I do with my knife is I just draw it together in a little pile. And then you just do this until you are happy with your garlic. Is it fine enough? If you quit early, you might get a chunk of garlic in your food that is a lot larger than you're prepared for, and it's very strong. So let's take our time, make sure our garlic is nice and crushed. Now, some of you might have a garlic press. You can do the very same thing with the garlic press. I just love using knives, so I'm going to use the knife and show you how to do that. And then once in a while, you want to use your finger, just get the garlic that got stuck to your knife off, just to make sure there's no large chunks. There. Now, I believe this is exactly where I want it. Okay, so garlic, ready to go. I'm going to take a little bowl and put my crushed garlic in it. There we go. Now we're going to start with our flatbread. So these flatbreads are pretty easy to find at the grocery store. They're also called pita, soft pita, or naan bread. You can buy these ones in packs of 5 or in packs of 10, and they're actually really delicious. They're just like pizza crust. If you want to be ambitious, you can grab a pizza crust recipe and use a pizza crust recipe for the same thing that we're working on. We have reached our temperature. I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit because we are up to 450. Take a look at that hot barbecue. What I'm going to do is take aluminum foil because we don't want anything to fall down the grate. And then this makes it much easier to take your flatbread right off without having to touch anything too hot. So take a look here, taking my aluminum. For those of you who care, I like to put the shiny side down and the not so shiny side up. There we go. I'm going to take 4 flatbreads at a time. The recipe calls for 4. And lay them on the barbecue. There we go. And then Steve's going to time us for 4 minutes. These are going to sit for 4 minutes on the barbecue just to get it nice and crisp on the bottom. In the meantime, let's talk about the things we want to put on top. Some of you just love a really plain pizza with pepperoni and cheese. That's totally fine. Some of you want to do something a little bit more upscale. And so we're going to do a margarita, which is tomatoes, olive oil and garlic, and some fresh basil. In order to get fresh basil, we have to go over to our greenhouse really fast. So come follow me, and we are going to go for a quick walk over to the greenhouse boxes. This is my basil. Whenever you pick basil, what you want to do is pinch it off right before you see all of those new little buds coming in. So I'm pinching off the top. Otherwise, it starts to grow higher and higher, and then it will go to seed at the top. And you don't want it to go to seed because then your basil is going to start to die. I'm going to take 2 big chunks of basil. There, let's go cut these up. Flatbread's looking good. So the main ingredients for a margarita, flatbread or pizza, are fresh herbs, garlic, olive oil, and tomato. So we're going to do all of that together. So I'm going to slice the tomato. In your recipe, it calls for firm tomatoes. The best tomatoes I enjoy are these little grape or cherry tomatoes. They're the most firm. They make a beautiful pizza. Another thing I'd like to put on my flatbread is red onion. So I'm going to cut the ends off. Something I've learned recently about onions is they have an enzyme inside of them that's actually in the onion to protect the onion from predators. So as soon as an animal bites into this onion, or a human cuts open the onion, it shoots out this sulfuric, awful smell, as you know, and it actually has something that affects the glands in your eyes, and you've all experienced your eyes watering when you cut open an onion. So if you want to avoid that, you can cut open your onion early, set it aside, allow those enzymes to seep out and do their dirty work away from your eyes. If you don't have the time or didn't remember to do it like me today, you can always run it under water. That kind of takes a little bit away. Or just be tough and look away. Okay, I'm going to slice some really thin onion slices as well. Nice and thin. You look at the left, my left hand is just the guide, and I was just holding it like a claw. So think about the claw rather than sticking your fingers out so that you can actually cut without it cutting any of your fingers. Okay, I'm going to save the rest of this. We've got our beautiful sides to our margarita. I'm going to give this a quick slice. You'll notice I'm doing the same kind of idea, bundling up the basil and then using the rocking motion to give it a good slice. There we go. Now I'm going to use a tool. Let's take a look at these. They've got a nice toasty grill bottom. I'm going to grab my wooden board. This is the one I need. And how about right here? Is this okay, Steve? Okay. Put my thing. And let's get these off the grill. How many minutes was it? What are we at? What are we at for minutes? Okay, we're at exactly 4 minutes. You see our flatbread. 4 minutes and 4 seconds later, you see our flatbread is a beautiful golden color on the bottom. Like so. That's great. So what I'm going to do now, because I've got a few people to feed in my household, I'm going to do another 4. You can watch the margarita and the pepperoni versions. Okay, so we'll start with margarita. Like that. I want to start with a little bit of olive oil. And a brush. And a little bit of this garlic that we ever so lovingly mashed up. So this is a garlic olive oil. We'll start by brushing the top with an olive oil. In Italian cooking, olive oil and garlic are essentials to most recipes. They really bring out the flavors of the next ingredients that we're going to talk about. So these bright vegetables, these tomatoes, and these red onions here. There you are. And like I said, you get the freedom now to make this flatbread the way you would like it. Any vegetables that you particularly like that cook very quickly, such as mushrooms and sweet peppers, are an excellent choice for these flatbreads. Now I do need another 3 minutes on the clock, Steve. If that's okay. You already did it? Oh, good for you. And I'm going to cut just a little bit more of this. Here, I'll move this. You'll notice with these onions, it can be a really slippery job. So just be very careful with it. All right, so let's get the rest of these tomatoes on. And this is going to be a very quick grill when we finish this up. More tomatoes? I think so. You can cut your tomatoes kind of on an angle if you'd like, as long as they're thinly sliced. Sprinkle those on. How are we doing for time?
1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock. We have 4 margarita flatbreads almost ready to go. Just take a little bit of salt and pepper, give it a little sprinkle. Now, if you have oregano or basil, like the dried kind, this is also really nice on this pizza. I'm going to use a special spice mix called Grace's Crazy Good Spices. These are really great because she is, this is locally sourced. She's from Thunder Bay, and she makes a really wonderful mix of spices. This one is Herbe de Provence, which it contains both oregano, basil, a little bit of tarragon, a little bit of some other things. Oh, it actually has some really interesting spices, fennel and lavender as well. And this, of course, is just up to you if you would like to add those extra spices. Let's take a look at these. Also beautiful. I'm going to lift these off the grill for our next batch. And let's put our margarita pizzas on. Notice we put all of our toppings on the already grilled side. So now the bottom needs a bit of a grill. Let's get these on. If you want to add a little Parmesan, by the way, some fresh parm, you can put this on now. Oh, my timer means it's time to do this. I'm going to put a little Parmesan on now, and I'll put a little Parmesan on later. That way some of the parm can just melt right in. There we go. So we are going to set this for 4 more minutes. 4 is the magic number tonight for our flatbread. 4 more minutes. I'm going to close this up, let it warm up and do that final cooking. Get the bottom nice and toasty. Let's check on our temperature. Needs a little bit more heat. It's turned, so I'm going to turn it up a little. We want to keep it around the 400 mark. So I'm going to let it rise a bit. With the heat that we had when we originally had our nice hot 450 degrees, we were able to do the first half. So now I want to crank it up a little bit for the second half. Okay, now this is for the kids. For those of you, for the kids and for those of you who don't want anything too dramatic on your pizza, just simple. We're going to put some of that olive oil on the bottom. Gonna get some pepperoni. I have a little cooler down here that can. Now, if you are cooking outside and you don't want to run back and forth, but you don't want your meat and your cheese to start getting gross and warm, just bring a cooler out and throw a couple cold packs in there. Let's get some pepperoni on there. Instead of doing Parmesan for these ones, I have a mix of mozzarella and Edam cheese, which does a great job as well of cooking them. By closing your lid, you're creating more of an oven scenario. So the first half, it's totally fine to keep your lid open because what you want to do is get a nice crispy bottom, but not cook it too much. All right, so we've got our 4 here. And get that cheese on top. You remember you're doing all of this on the pre-toasted side. Now, how are you guys doing? Is anyone putting their flatbreads together and want to show on the camera? All right. How are we doing for time, Stephen? We have 1 minute and 30 seconds. We don't want to lift the lid because we want the heat to actually create a bit of an oven. We want that oven to finish our flatbread cooking. So we're going to switch that up as soon as we can. We have our fresh basil. Give it another little chop. Now I have my family here wanting to have a little snack before dinner, which is why we are doing our flatbread early. So this is going to be a little bit of an appetizer course for some of you. Make sure you've got a pizza cutter so you can cut your pizzas up and a wooden board that you can place them on. You don't want to be cutting them directly on your table. And then I've got some plates somewhere around here for the kids, and I'll get, oh, you got some? Okay. While we're finishing up this one, I'm going to talk about our next step. We are going to be doing chicken shawarma, which I've done a number of times now, and I love the flavors of chicken shawarma. So while we're waiting for that last 30 seconds, I can just talk through some of the flavors of the marinade we're going to be making first. Now, a marinade can be used for hours in advance, or can be used directly before you put it on the oven. Tonight, I'm going to just marinate the chicken really quick, put it on the oven, put it right into our barbecue right away. So if you have looked at the recipe and you've done this in advance, that's fantastic. It should be given a little bit of marinating time. But if you haven't done it in advance, it's totally fine. Okay, let's take a look. Beautiful. These are our flatbreads. What I'm going to do at the final step is add that fresh basil. Doesn't that look beautiful? It actually has that flavor, the smell of a wood-fired pizza without actually having to buy yourself a wood-fired oven, which is pretty great. And if you want to add a little bit more Parmesan, you can do that as well. Add a bit more parm. That'll melt right into the top. Okay, so I'm going to put these pizzas over here on the board. And I'm going to get my new pizzas right into the pan. So you're basically switching up right now if you're doing both kinds. By the way, this and a salad makes a beautiful dinner. You really don't have to do a full dinner after this. But because we're doing barbecue stuff, we may as well keep cooking. All right, so here's our first one. Let's get the second one on the grill. Get your tomatoes off if they do. Okay. Got some nice heat on that barbecue. Let's take a look at our finished appetizers. I would give it maybe 30 seconds before you start eating this because you will get some very hot, tiny tomatoes, little tomatoes of lava. So don't eat them just yet. And then cut them into 4. There, cut these guys over here. There, an easy flatbread that looks gourmet. I'm going to put it on this platter for now and pass it around to my family. And of course, keep one for me. Little taster. Shall we grab some more people? Have some snacks. Okay, so here's our first little appy for tasting. I'm going to put this over here for now. And give my first piece a taste. It's crisp on the bottom and just lovely on top. And we probably have about 1 or 2 minutes left on our second pizza. 2 minutes left on our second pizza. Just enough time for me to enjoy this little appetizer. I love how the little tomatoes still have a really fresh flavor to them. They're not overcooked.
Thank you for joining.
Now, with the last couple minutes to go, I'm going to clean up our space a little bit. We'll get our final pizzas ready. And then we shall move on to our marinade that we were talking about just a bit ago. 40 seconds. All right, let's take a look at our last pizzas. See how they're doing. Oh, nice. See how this has, the cheese has gotten all bubbly and perfect. Now just lift this up, take a look. Now, if it starts to stick to your aluminum foil, it's simply because I had made another batch before. There was a couple little bits of tomato that are quite stubborn. But now you can get rid of your aluminum foil because our next project is not needed at all. All right. I'm going to close up the barbecue. Let's keep the heat in there as much as we can. Now, some of these are going to get a little bit of basil, and then some of them won't due to my children. Some of them love greenery on their pizzas and some of them don't, which is totally fine. And let's cut up these. Now, Steve, can I have a couple plates there, and we'll put these ones on plates. Here you go. And then I'll cut up the last one. There. So we have a pepperoni pizza coming as well as our margarita flatbread. All right. All right, I'm going to clean this area up now and move the board out of the way. And now let's switch gears and talk about our chicken shawarma. Just clean up this area here. Now for shawarma, I'm going to be using olive oil and garlic. So if you happen to have some olive oil and garlic left from the last recipe, we may as well use it up again. If there's anyone, of course, that is gluten-free in your family, this is already contaminated. So to avoid cross-contamination, I would just start nice and fresh. I have half a cup of olive oil. And I have a lemon right here. Now I love to add a little bit of lemon zest to my marinade. So it calls for half a juice lemon. I'm going to double my recipe. So I'm going to do a full juice lemon. And more olive oil, of course. So you'll notice that I just zest just the edges here, simply because if you zest a little bit too deep, you're going to get into the pith, and that's a little bit bitter. So we want to get that nice fresh lemon flavor without getting it pithy and bitter. Now let's cut this in half and squeeze it. So far we've got garlic, lemon, olive oil. I'm going to take a little whisk it all together so far. Now, what we need to add to this project is a few delicious ingredients called coriander, cardamom, and smoked paprika. So I have all three of these right here. We've got our cardamom, our coriander, which is incidentally the seed of a cilantro plant. So if those of you who love that fresh green cilantro, this is the seed from it. So that's exciting. For those of you who hate cilantro, this is the seed from it. It doesn't taste the same. So you win either way. Okay, put that in. And smoked paprika, which is a little bit different than paprika. Great on a barbecue. It adds that little extra smoky flavor. By the way, you can get all of these weird spices at the Canada Bulk Spice Store downtown. And black pepper. And of course, salt. Give that a little whisk. And this is our shawarma marinade. Now I'm going to be saving, I'm going to add my second portion of olive oil to this as well. Now I'm going to be saving half of this for my vegetables and putting half of it in the chicken. So I'll show you what I have. Chicken. Taking out the chicken from the cooler. And these are chicken breasts. You can also use chicken thighs. Both of those work very well. I'm going to drizzle about half of this mixture right over the chicken. Save half for later. Make sure it doesn't touch the raw chicken. Now you've got two choices. You can use your hands and you can get right in there. But then you have to go and sanitize your hands really well by washing them for at least 30 seconds because of course, raw chicken carries salmonella. So what I'm going to do is avoid that completely and toss it with tongs. The tongs that I'm using to toss my chicken, another food safe tip, they now have raw chicken on them. So I'm not going to use these same tongs to turn my chicken and to do the final cooking. There we go. Just make sure you mix it up so that you get all of that delicious marinade into your chicken. Remember, our last project had aluminum foil down, so nothing has gotten too dirty. Let's take a look at our temperature. We are about 450 to 460 right now, so we've got a nice high heat. Now, if you are worried about your grill sticking, you can add a little bit of oil to the grill, but remember your marinade has oil in it, so you don't have to worry too much. Okay. I'm going to use this to get it onto the grill. A hot grill should make a nice sizzling sound when you lay your meat down on the grill. You'll notice I'm doing a fairly large recipe. This one is about 9 altogether. All right. Going to turn my heat down a little bit so it doesn't flame up too much. And close the lid. Got lots of heat though. I'm going to wash my hands and move some of this stuff out of the way. And then I'll just call my family back for dinner time in about 20 minutes. So they don't have to stay if they don't want to. Okay, so.
Hi, everyone.
All right, so now we're going to be working on our vegetable skewers. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about soaking these bamboo skewers. This is important. So we've got them soaking right now. Got my cutting board here. I've only cut up vegetables on the cutting board, so I'm not too concerned. I can just wipe it down and I can wash off the knife. Okay, so you can choose a whole number of vegetables for your skewers. I'm going to be using a zucchini, an orange pepper, and a red pepper, and a little bit more of that red onion, which I put right here. So let me start with the red onion. Same kind of idea as I mentioned earlier. Cut off the end, give it a really thin slice. You can get the outside layer off. And as I mentioned, of course, it's going to be sending out some of those nasty enzymes, but I can handle it. You'll notice I'm not going to be cutting these up very fine, just in eighths, because you'll notice with onions, you've got small pieces and large pieces. So we can just separate these a little bit, and these will be part of our skewers. Red onions are sweeter than white onions, so I really do suggest using red onions, especially if you're new to the eating chunks of onion for dinner. All right, and zucchini. So the idea for cutting up all these vegetables, they don't have to look exactly the same, but they should be fairly uniform in size. Here we go. So you'll notice I'm cutting it, first of all, lengthwise into 4, and then widthwise. Now with my peppers, I'm going to take the stem of the pepper, break it off, turn it upside down. I enjoy cutting my peppers like this. Totally up to you. As you're cutting from the top, curve your knife down. So what you're doing is you want to get around those seeds in that pith and not have to waste very much. So whatever's left, you'll notice in the end, is just the heart of the pepper, which I'll throw over there. Now, the veggies, if you prefer, you can actually lay down some a copper sheet or some more of that aluminum foil and grill your peppers all loosely directly on the barbecue. I prefer skewering them because it's more fun to eat off of a skewer. But your flavor won't be much different, honestly. Same idea, starting at the top, curving the knife around. There you go. You've got your peppers. Now we're going to take these skewers and I'm going to replace this little bin of water with the actual vegetables. Let's take these vegetables, put them in. Because before we skewer, we want them to have that fabulous flavor of our marinade. So we're doing the same marinade because we want these to all go so beautifully together. Pour the rest of your marinade over top. Give it a little stir. There's lots of flavor in here. Okay. Now, when you are skewering your vegetables, you may choose any which way. Now, some of you would love to do a perfect zucchini pepper, or whatever kind of pattern you've created is fine. Some of you might want to just do zucchini on one and peppers on another. So this is time to play, time to have a little bit of fun with your skewers. I'm going to be doing 8 skewers in total. You'll notice I am not exact. I'll do zucchini, pepper, maybe onion, maybe 2 peppers. And then I'll cap it off with a little piece of onion. So just like that. This time I'm starting with peppers. Other time I started with zucchini. Couple onion, maybe a pepper, maybe a zucchini. And then just go until, notice I just broke that. Sometimes they break. You don't have to use all your vegetables. Like I said earlier, if you are finished making your skewers and you have lots of veggie left, you can throw these in a pan or you can put them directly on the barbecue as long as you have a barbecue sheet protecting them from going through. So the skewer, of course, does that for you. You don't have to worry about anything falling through. So I'm picking my prettiest vegetables, skewering them first. There we go. Maybe a nice red one here and zucchini. And then I'll end with onions. So that's my third skewer down. Let's take a look at our barbecue. We are at 400, almost 400 degrees. I'm happy with that temperature. It's the perfect temperature to get a nice grill on my chicken without burning it. Some barbecues can be much hotter than others, so it is important to keep checking on it. And most of your barbecues will have the temperature on the outside. Because I'm doing chicken, it's very important that I cook the inside of the chicken before the outside gets too dark. So keeping the lid on creates that oven that you want so you can cook the interior. Okay, got 4. Now it looks like I've got enough to do at least maybe 2 more before I run out of zucchini. And just use some extra peppers on this one. See that? I love the different colors. There's something pretty special about bright veggies on a barbecue. You'll notice the veggies I chose all cook about the same time. If you wanted to switch up your veggies, just make sure you stick with veggies that can cook pretty quickly. If you want to put, say, carrots and potatoes and the other root vegetables, those take a long time to cook, and you would have to have them grilling on very low heat for quite a while. There. Okay, that looks pretty good. We've got our 6 skewers. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do another one. I've got a few more of these zucchini. We can finish this up. I hope all of you are skewering happily on the other side of the screen, finding your perfect blend of colors. There we go. And our final one, I have 8 altogether on mine. I think one recipe will get you at least 4 with extras. The one downside to marinating your vegetables first, they get a little bit slippery. So just be careful as you're poking through. You'll notice I'm poking directly down so I don't accidentally poke my fingers. Okay, here we go. Got all 8. This is all that's left. Totally happy with this. I'll fry this up later. I'm gonna wash my hands. And we'll take a look at our chicken. Ooh, nice. Got a little bit of a grill mark. Let's take a look. Ah, could use. So I'm looking, you'll notice here, it's cooking up nicely, but it doesn't have a dark enough grill mark. The darker the grill mark, the more flavor. I mean, that's not true. If you wait too long, it will burn. But you want to get a nice golden color. So what I'm going to do, even this one is not quite dark enough. So what I'm going to do is let this sit. I'm going to take these two and turn it up a bit. So it's cooking very nicely on the inside, but we want to get a little bit more color on the outside. So totally fine. We're going to set aside our veggies for a moment because I want to show you how to set up your grill so that your vegetable skewers don't start to burn. We don't want these skewers here that we've soaked so carefully in water to just light on fire. So I'm going to take some aluminum foil, fold it in half lengthwise. And the length of my aluminum foil is going to be the width of this barbecue. I'm going to slide this right here. And then I'm just going to get my chicken a little closer to this side. I can do 8. And let's slide that aluminum foil over. And it's also a barrier between our chicken and our vegetables. You'll notice the stick is overlapping on top of the aluminum. No flames can get to these. Got a nice high heat where the actual veggies are. There we go. Just enough room to put all of our veggies and all of our chicken, should you want to do a double recipe. For a single recipe, you could use a fairly small grill and get away with the entire thing. Let's take a look at our color now on the chicken. Well, getting a little bit better. See this one here. See that brown? Yeah, we want it to be nice and golden, not overcooked. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer. And while we're waiting for the chicken to be able to turn it, let's make our garlic sauce. Close that up. Get some heat there. And let's take a look at the ingredients we're going to need for our garlic sauce. Crushed garlic, which we already have prepped from before. Another lemon. Get your cutting board ready because we are going to get this lemon juiced again. We're also going to get some nice, rich Greek yogurt. So I'll grab that. This is one of my favorites. It's 2%, so it has a little bit of fat content. Greek yogurt can go up to 10%, so it can be very, very rich. I prefer the 2%, and it is nice and thick so that you're not dealing with kind of soupy yogurt, which is never that good. I'm going to do a little bit of cumin finally, and salt and crushed chili. You can use cayenne pepper or a little bit of chili flakes, whatever you want. I'm going to grab a bowl. So it calls for about 1 cup of the Greek yogurt. And this is something that I would suggest make it while you're waiting for everything else to cook. So you might be kind of bored and you've got some, you're just waiting for that chicken to be done. This is your chance to get all those little things ready to go. So 1 cup of this yogurt, which is about this much. You'll notice I don't measure that carefully for something like this because we can taste test. Taste testing is really important when it comes to something like a sauce. Way more important than just blindly following a recipe. Let's put about a teaspoon of garlic in. This is the cumin. Put a little bit of cumin in. About a teaspoon of salt. And let's get that lemon. Now I think one recipe calls for half a lemon. So we're going to start with our half lemon. Sometimes lemons can be pretty small, not create very much juice. So you might want to start with half a lemon, taste test it, and see if you need a little bit more. Now, Stephen, I forgot my tasting spoons. Do you think you could grab some tasting spoons or just like little teaspoons? Now, while my husband's going to get the tasting spoons, I'm going to ask him to heat up some mashed potatoes later too. If you want to add a side like potatoes or rice, that's an excellent addition to your dinner. So we've got some mashed potatoes that we're going to warm up as part of our side. You can also have a nice white rice, jasmine rice, something like that goes really nice with the skewers. So while he's going to get that tasting spoon, I'm going to give this a good stir and allow those flavors to develop. While we're doing that, let's go check on our chicken. Oh, we've got some color now. Let's take a look here. Thank you. I just want to show you a couple of things on the barbecue and then we'll move over. So you'll see that I can touch the actual end of the stick because it hasn't been warmed up too much. Wood is not a great conductor of heat. It's not actually that hot just yet. You'll notice I'm just doing a quarter turn just so it's searing that little part, but not overdoing it. There we go. And now let's take a look at these chicken. Much better, got a better brown already. See that color? Oh yeah. Okay, so we've turned our vegetables, we've flipped our chicken. We can close it up again and let it continue to cook. And we're going to give this sauce a nice whisk. Okay, let's give it a taste test. So it should have a distinctive garlicky flavor, garlic, lemon, and a little bit of that cumin. I think it has plenty of flavor. I'm not going to add any more lemon or anything else to this because I'm happy with this. So let's get our garlic sauce here. By the way, sauces only get better as you let them rest. So you can make this sauce an hour in advance and just let it rest in the fridge and the flavors will continue to develop. Now, what I want to do is get my cutting board ready to go to cut up my chicken. Is the wooden cutting board still here? Yes. Okay, we've got our wooden cutting board here. I'm going to clean up my area a little bit. And I'll get our wooden cutting board ready to go here. And then I will just need a couple large platters to serve both the chicken and the vegetables. Perhaps those two big pottery platters inside the house would be pretty good. The pottery plates. Yes. All right, moving some things over. Let's take a look at how our vegetables and our chicken are doing. I'll get these guys out of the way because we do not need them anymore. I'm going to clean up my area here. Okay. Now our vegetables can do that last little turn. Vegetables will take about 3 turns in total to completely cook all the edges. There we go. That looks great. And now what we're going to do is a little test on this chicken. Certain pieces are very small and they're already firm. So that means we are actually done a couple of these pieces. This one's going to go on the board. Now, if you have a few pieces that are done in front of others, you can get them onto your board and cover them up quickly with aluminum foil so that you can keep them warm while you wait till the last ones are ready. This is called tenting. It's called tenting because it sort of looks like a little tent. You want to give it a bit of space to breathe, but you also want to keep it warm. And chicken, unlike beef, it doesn't need nearly as much time, but chicken does need a little bit of time for the proteins to relax a bit. If I start slicing this chicken as soon as it comes off the grill, it's going to start releasing juices and create a dry product. Okay, let's get these vegetables onto the platter. Look at these beautiful veg. This in itself would make a delicious dinner with some jasmine rice and a little of that garlic sauce. Here we are. Now taking a look at the chicken that's left, this is another very small one. This will be perfectly fine under the foil. Now, one of the best ways to actually judge whether a piece of chicken is done is a thermometer, a meat thermometer that you can just insert, check the temperature. For pieces of chicken, you want it to reach 165 degrees. Many of you have heard that 180 is the only number you should go for well done chicken, but that gets almost too much for chicken breast because the outside will be very hot and it will slowly heat up the inside. So the residual cooking will actually bring 165-degree chicken on the grill to 180 under your foil. So Stephen, if you can just open the top drawer and find my little meat thermometer. It's sitting with all the other like big tools. While I flip the last chickens, Steve's going to show us this meat thermometer. Take a look here. Oh yeah. Now you'll notice the last chickens I've left on the grill are the largest ones. I've taken the small ones off. I do want to make sure that the big ones are fully cooked in the center. So when Steve comes back, we will test the interior. In the drawer right underneath it's not there. Do you want to just chat with everyone and I'll go find it? Okay, another way that you can test your chicken, which is going to actually only affect one piece of chicken, is taking a smaller piece, cutting it in half, and if the juices run clear and there's no pink juices whatsoever, then it is done. Okay, so should look like this. They're pretty small. They are not very expensive, and you can get them at the grocery store. They're not meant to be sitting in your oven for a long period of time. So what we're going to do is stick it in the chicken, watch that little gauge move up. And you want to wait until it gets to 165 degrees. If it's more than 165, you take that chicken off right away. You'll notice that red section is the danger zone. Anything between 40 and 140 is the food safety danger zone. And you want to make sure that your food is above that so microbes don't form and cause foodborne illnesses. Oh, look where we are, almost at 140. So our chicken is almost ready. So I'm going to allow this to just sit here. And we'll wait for it to reach its proper temperature. I'm going to grab my knife and give it a quick wash, because the rest of our chicken has been resting really nicely and it is ready to slice. No, I want to leave it open just to show them the process of it. It's at 145 right now. Okay, so the chickens that came out already, I'm going to slice them on a bias, and they're nice and hot right now. I want to show you the interior here. There's no pink juices, but it is still a tender and juicy product. So we don't want it to be a dry product. We want it to be nice and juicy, but no pink juices. So what I'll do for chicken shawarma, it's best if it's served sliced like so, with a little bit of that sauce on the side. Then that is perfect. And then let's check this one. This one might be, oh, this one's perfect. There we go. Then you can arrange it artfully on the plate. We are at 150 right now. Now let's try the smaller piece of chicken, because I'm pretty sure the smaller one's ready to go. You'll notice how I was very careful to keep this in the center of the meat. If you push it all the way down, you're actually measuring the temperature of the grill, which is really hot. So it's really inaccurate. So just be very careful to keep it in the thickest part of your chicken. All right, so this small piece is at 165 degrees. I've got one more one that I'm going to work on, this one here in the front. And then let's get these little guys off the grill. Yeah, we are ready to rock. We've got them all at their proper temperature. You'll notice in the process, there is a lot of gunk on this barbecue. Don't turn your barbecue off right away. We want to burn this down to nothing. So get it, maybe give it 5 more minutes with the lid on. It'll sanitize your barbecue. It'll burn everything else off. It'll be ready to go. The last stage right now is just covering up this chicken. Now that we've reached our magical temperature, cover up your chicken, allow this side to rest a little bit, and then I can garnish a little bit. So I'm going to use a cute little bowl, a couple of those tasting spoons you brought down, Stephen. Oh, they're right here. Now with chicken shawarma, there's a couple herbs that go really nicely with Italian food, for example. Basil and oregano are your perfect herbs. With shawarma, with a Lebanese food, you're going to want something like cilantro or parsley. So I'm going to wander over to our greenhouse one more time. and we will grab some fresh herbs, chop those up and put them on our shawarma, and then I will chop up the rest of our chicken. I've got some friendly flowers amidst the herbs, and these guys actually keep pests away. So I like to just sprinkle them in and around. This is some cilantro over here. And we've got some parsley right here. And that should do it. I'm not gonna, you know what, mint too. Mint is really lovely when it comes to get a little bit of mint. This is a very flavorful herb. It's got some mint, some parsley, a tiny bit of cilantro, probably not enough to worry about. Let's do mint and parsley. It's up to you if you want to chop it up or if you want to just tuck it in, tuck in some color. The mint is really nice with our sauce. Put a little bit of mint in the sauce. And then I will chop the rest of it up very, very small. As our garnish. Okay, we've allowed our chickens to rest enough to give it a final slice. See that juiciness? And then I'll do one more for this one, and I'll save these guys for a different platter. Put a little bit of herbs on there. There you have it, folks. We've got our chicken shawarma with our Lebanese garlic sauce and some chicken skewers. And this would be an excellent next course after you snack on a little bit of that Italian flatbread. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this little barbecue class, and I hope you can make all of the things. You have your recipes and you have your grocery list, so you can make this at any time now. Thanks again, Willow and Autism Ontario, for having me join you today, and have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you, Chef Rhonda. Thank you all for joining. Thank you. All right.